You've been looking at this story, the story that was in one of these papers about Major Mahama's statue, which is going to come up this morning. But there's a lot associated with that tragic story which unfolded a few years ago here in Ghana.
There is indeed. That's something that I want to share with all of us. You know, just to remind us that exactly 2 years ago, an army captain leading a detachment at DSO in the Upper Dentra districts of the Central Region was murdered. An officer with the 5th Infantry Battalion of the Ghana Army, Captain Maxwell Adam Mahama, had gone for his usual morning exercise on May 29, 2017, when residents attacked and clapped him to death at Dentra Boase. Some residents filmed the horrific incident and circulated it, sadly, on social media, which generated national outrage. Just to go over the trial, 14 persons, including the assemblyman of Dentra Boase, William Ba, are standing trial at an Accra High Court over the killing of Major Mahama. Chief State Attorney Evelyn Kilson tended in, and this was the beginning of this process, 53 exhibits for the trial, including forensic reports. There was post-mortem report on the deceased, video recordings, 2 single-barreled shotguns, a 6-inch cement block, and a partly bent shirt. The rest are 1 clock pistol, an iPhone, a metal bar, a stone, 2 pellets, 1 empty cartridge, 7 rounds of ammunition, and photograph of the crime scene. The young soldier was promoted, you remember, posthumously, the reason we refer to him now as Major Maxwell Mahama. And this was done by President Akufo-Addo. Here's what's latest in terms of the court hearing. And I have to apologize because some of the details you're about to hear a bit gory for the morning. So a 10th prosecution witness told the court on Monday, just this Monday, the condition in which they met the body of the lynched officer. Chief Inspector Daniel Yeboah said when the police got to the scene of the alleged murder, and here's a quote, "We saw him naked with the head damaged and the body partly bent," unquote. Mr. Yeboah, who is a 7th police officer, he's been at this for 34 years, was being led by Chief State Attorney Joshua Saki to give his evidence in chief during the trial at the court presided over by Justice Mariama Owusu. The court adjourned hearing to June 7, I beg your pardon, 2019. So that's what is latest in terms of the court. But remember that we set up this law to cater for the family. Specifically, I'll tell you the objective of this bill that went to Parliament in 2017. The objective of the bill, here we go, is to cater adequately for the wife and children of the late Maxwell Mahama and other related matters. Sources of money for the trust fund, just real quick. Seed money specifically allocated for the startup of the trust fund. Remember, the president made a personal donation to the fund as well. So they are supposed to embark on fundraising exercises, different things to get money for this fund. And then, as part of the things that you're supposed to do for the family, specifically, just let's go to the application of the trust fund. Acquisition and furnishing of an appropriate 3 or 4 bedroom house for the widow of the late Major Maxwell Mahama and the children, Jaden and Jeremiah. They are also to be taken care of for life at a location determined by Mrs. Barbara Mahama. That's in terms of the location of the accommodation facility. But if you go down, it will tell you exactly what Mrs. Mahama is supposed to be getting as well. Adequate allowances for living expenses, a means of transportation, specifically a suitable vehicle periodically as reasonably necessary, educational expenses and other facility determined by the Board of Trustees. They are also supposed to take care of the 2 children till they complete tertiary education. The maintenance of the wife shall continue until she remarries or, God forbid, she dies. So what happens to this bill? Because remember that when this came up, people said, okay, why are you doing this for just one individual? The residue of the trust fund shall revert to the government when the object of the trust fund is achieved by reason of, and I've said it, death, if the woman remarries, in terms of Mrs. Mahama, the securing of unemployment by Jaden Mahama and Jeremiah Mahama in terms of the children as well. So this board of trustees is chaired by the Minister of Defense. There's also the administrator of the trust fund, the chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Defense and Interior, the ranking member of the Parliamentary Select Committee of Defense and Interior. There's the Tumukoro and Dr. Grace Bediako. So there you go. I thought that it would be good for us to update ourselves with what we have done so far. But the thing is that we're not getting, in terms of what the family has gotten, not a lot of details coming out. But here's something that we also want to share on this day, 2 years on. Now, following the gruesome killing of Maxwell Mahama by a mob, some Ghanaians, 2 years on, are still worried that mob action still exists. There's more in this report put together by Joseph Akable.
The viral video capturing men with clubs and stones beating the life out of a young soldier left many shocked. The calls for swift punishment of those involved was loud. The family remained worried as arrests and release of suspects were widely reported.
There shouldn't be not less than 50 people here because it's the people who are involved in contributing in one way or the other to get him killed are more than 50.
2 years on, 14 persons are still standing trial for the crime. 10 of the state's 14 witnesses have already testified. The crime is still fresh in the minds of James, Daniel and Sean, who can almost recall the incident as if the news broke yesterday.
Unlucky person to find himself in that situation.
A captain, Major Mahama, very sad.
I can understand how his family and loved ones must feel about his death. I myself, I was hurt by it, but I think 2 years on, we should be able to put a finger to what exactly that we have learned as a people.
The family of a soldier had indicated plans to set up a foundation to campaign against mob justice. Other Ghanaians had also called for an end to citizens taking the law into their own hands. There has, however, been more than 10 attempted or successful lynching stories reported by the press since May 29, 2017, when Major Adam Mahama was killed. James, Daniel and Sean find this worrying.
Yeah, it's because now people don't trust, or over the years, people have lost trust in the justice system, the police, and our court system. How are they dealing with cases when people bring cases to them? How do they deal with it? Look at the Anna's video. You see, what have they done? What are they doing?
We are
So about 10 of such actions, even after we all condemned what had happened at Dentra Boise.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, we heard Maxwell Mahama's father so emotionally calling for this to be the last, mob action that we see in this country. There's something particularly about lynching which just is vile because of its role in history. You know, slavery and the segregation and oppression of black people, Africans in the rest of the world. It's symbolized by lynching, you know, and mob action, where people just turn on a person because they don't like them for whatever reason. They're in the wrong part of town or whatever. They just jump on them as a mob and in a bloodthirsty lust for death, just kill these people. And it was happening because they were black, you know. And so for us to do it to ourselves, it is such an insult, you know, a slap in our own faces. It's something that as a civilized country should really never be part of our... But we do it for some of the most simple reasons. And we really need to do some work. I don't think it was enough for us to simply say, that's the last one, and then everybody walk on. We need to do some work to end it, and I'm not seeing any action on that. A law has been passed to make sure that the family don't feel any more of the loss than they should. But I would have loved to see a law that is passed to make sure that all of us prevent this from happening to any other family.
Well, Okay, so we will bring you a lot more on this particular conversation a bit later on. We have to make way for sports. It's all about the build-up to an all-English Europa League final. Benedict has got the details of this and a whole lot more in sports.